Hi, this is Anna Imagination with the Healing Garden, and I got to talk on this. I just found this word and I'm like, what is this? And I opened it up and I went, oh, it's metaphysical transformation. Apparently, there's like a whole philosophy on it, which is great because it's like, great. I know about Nietzsche, but let me go ahead and read this to you. This is Platonic philosophy. The weight and importance of metapsychosis in the Western traditions are from its adoption by Plato. In the eschatological. In the eschatological myth that closes the Republic, he tells how the son of Arminius, miraculously returned to life on the 12th day. That's a metaphor. After death, and recounted the secrets of the other world. After death, he said he went with others to the place of judgment, that is your seventh ethic, and saw the souls return from heaven, and proceeded with them to a place where they chose new lives. This is all metaphorical, human and animal. He saw the soul of Orpheus changing into a swan. Thamyris became a nightingale, musical birds choosing to be men. Yep, changelings. What did I say? We are changelings. And Atalanta choosing the honors of an athlete. Men were seen passing into animals, and wild and tame animals changing into other. After the choice, the souls drank of Lethe and then shot away like stars to their birth. Lethe, or the river Lethe, is, well, how do I explain it? It is, anyone who drinks from it has complete forgetfulness, and then shot away like stars to their birth. There are myths and theories to the same effect in other dialogues, including Phaedrus, Meno, Phaedo, Timaeus, and Laws. In Plato's view, the number of souls was fixed. See, I believe that too. Yep, number of souls is fixed. Souls are never created or destroyed. That's exactly why. It's because energy is not created or destroyed, but only transmigrate from one body to another. So that's Platonic philosophy. And they had all of it there of, what is this? What is this? And there's substantial information. So again, it's a whole lot of, we don't have the words for it, so let's try and translate it. It is the progression of the 12 ethics into the point of comprehension. The best way I can explain it is with physics, classic physics. We are basically radio signals, and we can feel physics. We all know this. We can feel physics. All of your emotions, all of the cognitive dissonance, all of the emotional pain you feel, well, that's physics, 100%. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. A soul is energy. A soul is energy. So because energy cannot be created or destroyed, it can only be transferred and or stored or transferred. Those are your options. It is safe to assume that the energy inside of you is immortal, ancient, forever, because energy cannot be created or destroyed. And when you understand how energy moves and how it transfers, it completely changes the game. Force, love, can absolutely move energy. Physicists know this. So when you are aligned with the self, it is to exist in a state without any interference. It is to exist in a state of pure in-phase signals. That is what it means. It means to have your radio station dialed in at the precise point where you are to match your own frequency. That's it. And when we are born at the point of comprehension. But life and society pulls us way over here. So if you imagine that you have a point at the true center of the self. Now, when you go through the 12 ethical stages of perspective growth, you stay there. You absolutely nurture that state. But if you don't, then as you grow, it pulls you away. This is where evolution stops. So as you do the 12 ethics, you are actually returning back into the point of comprehension. You have to go through it 3 times to get yourself back to the point of comprehension. I have a target graph where it shows like each phase, and each slot, each ripple or ring away from the point of comprehension is a frequency, is a slot of time. So when you pass through time, you're actually passing through each and every one of these perspectives, which is why at the center, time does not exist, which is why for us, the closer you get, the more you struggle understanding time. You start to struggle understanding time when you get to the 6th, 7th level of comprehension. When you get to the 6th and 7th level of the 12 ethics, time starts to really get wonky because you're The signals are different here. The signals are very, very different. You can't even feel any of this until you reach the fourth and fifth ethic. Fifth ethic, really. The fourth, perspectives and lower, can't even feel it. They cannot feel it. So, and they're the ones who shape, define our societal reality. And because they don't feel it, it's a common belief in this conception of, oh, you can't have that. Now, energy does not take a form, it gets stored. So technically our bodies are vessels of that energy that takes its form. And when you start to understand how to move the energy, transfer the energy, and use the energy, oh, it changes everything. It absolutely changes everything. Now, once you get to the point of comprehension, what you experience then, and these are perspective shifts, as you move closer and closer, you get through perspective shifts. You get perspective sickness. It's a hoot. And you only get the perspective sickness from the sixth ethical perspective when you go through the metaphysical transformation, and then you have 12. You have the 12 ethics after that. So you get 18 ethics. You get 18 ethics where you're going to feel perspective sickness. By the time you get to the last 12 ethics, the third round, finally, the perspective sickness stops. And then you can shift without experiencing the sickness. And then when you get to the center, you're, oh my God, it's like being dropped right into the point of comprehension. And you're like, oh, I understand the world, the universe, and everything. Everything makes sense. Look at that. I can tell a lie from truth. Oh, wow. This place is a mess. And then from there, it gives you time to stabilize. So it feels like you're like making a nest and you're building a home, and you're like, okay, so where do I want this? This is where I want to put my rugs. It really feels like you are nesting and you are making a home at the point of comprehension. And then from there, you receive something called the comprehension, perspective expansion is what I call it, perspective expansion, where every perspective you have expands. I'm in the third expansion now. So you start here, and then it goes like this, and then it goes like this. So now it goes out. So I'm at the third perspective expansion, where I'm going, that's how I discovered law. I was at 2 days ago, I had a perspective expansion. And when my perspective expanded out, I understood law, like all of law. I went, oh, I reverse engineered the academic discipline of law and order. And that's the kind of stuff at every perspective, you get a new academic discipline that you can reverse engineer. Yeah, that's how it's done. Yeah, that's why at the 12 ethics, you know shit, is because you get to the 12th ethic and you can reverse engineer all of physics because you can see it. And then at the next one, you can reverse engineer all of ontology and time dimension. And then at the next one, you can reverse engineer all of chemistry. And then math. Well, math comes first. It's logic, math, and it's a precise order. So, and Plato's curriculum is the order in which you can reverse engineer all of these things. So the academic disciplines are really the ability to reverse engineer the academic disciplines in the precise order in which you need to know them. Teaching is at the 29th conscious level, where you get to that 29th perspective, and you can reverse engineer all of teaching and education. And that's when I found out that's when I found everything out with teaching. And I'm like, oh, I'm mad. So many ethical violations. And that's it. It's just, there was just so many ethical violations from teachers, from the educational system, from the informational system, that I'm looking at it going, oh, you guys are violating laws left and right. No wonder why we're in a rape culture. Teachers are doing it. And then you get to the next one, which is romantic love, which isn't really romantic love over here. It's called bonding. It's something completely different. Very, very different. It's bonding like atoms, like nucleus bond. It's exactly like that. It is that. That's why I call it bonding, is because it's nucleus bonding. You're bonding to a nucleus. Bonding. That's what it is. You're bonding. So that's what it is. It's what all of these are. And then you get, after you get that, you have all of those in place in order. That's the 31st level of consciousness. And that's also when you get parenting. That's when you can reverse engineer parenting. 31 level of consciousness. For perspective, the majority of the planet is at the 4th level of consciousness. And the 5th and the 6th is where everybody else is, for the most part. So you get people from the 1st to the 6th. And I do see every now and then, I do meet somebody who's at the 7th and at the 8th. Very, very rarely. Very, very rarely. But I find them. I think I've found a total of 4 people who are beyond the 7th at this point. And then at one point, it was right after parenting, there were no more academic disciplines. There were no more academic disciplines. It was like the 31st, and then there was nothing There was no perspective shift, or there was no academic disciplines to absorb until I got to the third expansion, the third perspective expansion. So it's, if people are talking about an ascent, it's because they're at the sixth ethic. They're at the sixth perspective. Because you stop seeing ascent at the seventh. At the seventh, you go, oh, it's not an ascent. I'm descending into the self. You're going inward. And then at the ninth perspective, you realize that the whole chakra model is crap. At the ninth and the 10th, you realize the whole thing is crap and it's way off and there's so much error with it. And you just like, no, that model does not make sense. You can tell that that model was invented by someone at the sixth ethical perspective, and it's crap. It's crap. It's highly, yeah. So when people talk about the chakras, when they talk about the energy, when they talk about all of that, that tells me right there, okay, well, they're at the sixth. They're at the sixth and the seventh. When they talk about the ascent, oh, they're at the sixth. They have not even passed the sixth yet. If you are still talking in terms of divine, masculine, feminine, see, the words don't even make sense to me anymore. Masculine, feminine, the ascent, all those words, that's sixth perspective stuff. When you get to the seventh, the hierarchy falls. There is no hierarchy and there is no gender. At the seventh ethical perspective, you stop seeing people as gender. Gender ceases to exist at the seventh ethical perspective. So there's characteristics. At the sixth, that's where you start to become a vegetarian, vegan. And so it's really interesting to see, really, like, it's a completely different mindset. Time is gone. Time is so gone. Time does not make any sense over here. Well, it makes sense here. It doesn't make sense over there anymore. And that's where, because you can start to see the layers and the fabrications of all the different pieces of time. You can see math, you can see energy, and then you could see like the energy network, and then you can see the human circuitry. You can see the circuitry. You can see the human atom and the nucleus inside of a person, like the person is their own electromagnetic field. You can see it. And then you can see how it's amazing. When you go outside, it's like you can see all the perspectives, every perspective of every person, just based off their clothing, based on their clothing, their haircut. You can go, oh, there's a fifth perspective, there's a fourth perspective, there's a second perspective. And immediately you can tell where on the spectrum they are, immediately. And then when they open their mouth and they start talking, oh, okay, I know exactly where they are. So their language communicates where they are, their clothing communicates where they are, their behavior, the way they hold their bodies communicates which perspective they're in. And which is why I'm looking at it going, yeah, if you're a businessman, if you're self-governing to the point where you coexist with the current system, that's fifth ethical perspective. That's at the fifth level of consciousness. And those are the people where either you feel it or you don't. You get to the sixth ethic, you feel it. Everyone at the sixth ethic can feel it. There's just no exception. You can feel it. And if you are, and this is the other thing, is you can be at one perspective and you can be forced to be in a lower perspective. If that happens, you've got ADHD. That's what ADHD. It is, I belong over here, but I'm being forced to function at this frequency. And now I've got out of phase signals, which is why you shake, because that's what physics does. That's what physics does. And when I was looking at the metaphysics of, well, Nietzsche, oh yes, definitely Nietzsche. And that's schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is the transition from 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. At the 10th ethical perspective, you get the ethic emotional fluidity. And by that point, you're like, all emotions are right. I just open up, all emotions are right. They're just going to flow free. When you do that, you remove all your out of phase signals, and now you have your aligned frequency. Instantly, if you have schizophrenia, it ends because the frequencies are now allowed to flow freely. That is called resistance. And in physics, Mother Nature has a lot to say about resistance. She does not like it. So the problem is, if you don't know about physics, and if you don't think to apply physics to the subconscious mind, then the whole abstract is not going to make any sense. All of it is not going to make sense. As soon as you plug in classic physics, frequency, batteries, circuitry, atoms, all of it into the subconscious mind, the whole human person makes complete sense. And suddenly the rest of it is just, it's nonsense. You can literally look at human nature and go, wow, we have messed up so so much. There are more violations of the 12 ethics going on than anything else. And if you violate the ethics, you are literally violating the frequencies of Mother Nature, because every ethic is the embodiment of every personification of every single frequency at that tune or at that dial. So you have words, you have languages, you have energy, you have emotions that come into existence at each and every frequency. The majority of our language is fourth ethical perspective. So our words are fourth ethical perspective. Our priorities are fourth ethical perspective. Have you heard the Christian religion? It's very different the way they talk. That is second ethical perspective. So the second ethical perspective is the Christian religion. That's what you're going to hear. That's why their words are different. That's why words like damnation, that is a second ethical perspective word. We do not use that in the fourth ethical perspective. We do not use that in today's society. We say damn. We don't say damnation. And that is exactly what time is. It's the allotment of time in which it is. So the word damnation has a second ethical perspective frequency, but the word damn doesn't. That has the fourth ethical perspective frequency. And as you get to each and every location, you get new emotions, you get new words, you get new vocabulary. And as that comes to you, every one of those elements contains its energy that is born and birthed of that frequency. So now if you are a sixth perspective, you're going to be functioning at 12, 13, 13th frequency, 14th frequency. But if you're forced to live at a second ethical perspective, which is the 10th frequency, you're going to feel those out of phase signals absolutely clashing, and that's going to hurt you. Now you have cognitive dissonance. That's where cognitive dissonance comes from. It's from literally not being true to your own frequency. Your frequency comes with your own value, your own lesson, your own weakness, strength, challenges, priorities, values, and laws, ethical law. And if you do not follow the ethical law, it's going to cause out of phase signal. Every choice you make is absolutely containing of an energy from, literally, it's the transference of energy. So something happens to you. It goes into you through electrical energy. That electrical energy sends signals to your brain, which sends off hormones, which is chemical energy, which transfer the energy over into emotional energy, which gets stored inside of you as potential emotional energy. Now it sits there until you decide to do something with it. If you do nothing, it's going to build up and you're going to end up with suppressed potential emotional energy, and that's going to hurt the hell out of you. After a while, it's going to create a mental illness. When you take that potential energy and you transfer it over into kinetic energy with choice, action, and deliberation, now you can move that energy from potential stored energy into something productive. You can choose that. The choice is what determines what kind of energy you send out. So if you choose something decent, good, productive, something that you love, it's going to literally transfer it into the energy. It's going to put it out there and transfer it into kinetic energy. Use it with love, force, and now that's going to propel it forward and get you momentum. Do it out of fear, won't work. Do it out of fear and it will actually nurture consumption, and that's where you get narcissism. It absolutely develops it because you are choosing something that absolutely withdraws, turns inward. It's literally the dichotomy of A versus not A. Because you don't have momentum and the force to go forward, which is A, love, it's going to instead consume itself and devour itself, which is why when you do something out of fear, it absolutely enables the fear and it makes it worse. You must choose out of love. You must always make choices out of love, always. And that is how you get forward momentum. So that's physics in a nutshell. Thank you so much. And may the kindest of words always find you.